yeah, the why should we listen to you and how the heck did you get here is the big question, isn't it? Right? Like, how do you go from a magician, carny guy, to a lawyer, and why should people who want to have these law firms actually listen to what I have to say about trying to build a firm and grow revenue and improve their practices? And I mean, my origin story is probably a little different than a lot of folks, but born in the late '70s, early '80s, divorced parents, not the greatest student when I wanted to be a good student, or when I was actually interested in stuff. I would dig in and I would just devour it. But when it was stuff I just wasn't interested in, yeah, I was more than happy to goof off. Spent the a sort of a stereotypical early mid '80s upbringing in the Midwest, just outside of Detroit. Um, Kind of working class parents who were younger. I was sort of growing up with them probably, and I get to high school and I figure out, okay, I don't want to be a Yahoo. I was kind of a bit of a hellion in middle school there for a couple of years, and I got into high school and I really fell in love with the performing arts. Actually, I was into magic and comedy. And I jumped into the magic trick world. I had met some old guys who were professional performers, and they are the ones who really got me into thinking that like reading and research and studying was cool. And I got to meet a couple of famous magicians as a kid. And I don't know, something about it. It was intriguing, right? It was, I'm sure it had to do with the whole divorced parents, attention seeking behavior stuff. But from there, I sort of kind of cast everything aside and really just wanted to jump into being, some sort of a magician, magic celebrity, right? I know it's kind of crazy maybe, but that's what it was. So in college, I end up at UNLV in Vegas. Uh, and as I started getting further into the entertainment world, um, the business part of the entertainment world started intriguing me more. And, it was something that I probably wasn't very comfortable with, but I ended up, I think, becoming probably a better business person in the entertainment world than I was, an actual performer, even though, performing really was like my artistic outlet. It really was my first love. And so that led me to working with some pretty big names in entertainment I guess, of yesteryear. I've always been sort of an old soul, right? I sought out mentors and people who had been there, done that. And being a history junkie, I just wanted to relive certain parts of history. So I got a chance to work with Rip Taylor. He was one of them, the famous comedian. Look that up if you don't know who he is. And Rip, as crazy and flamboyant and everything as he was, I think that Rip was probably a better business person too than he was even just a talent or an act. I ended up helping him with an off-Broadway show that he was trying to develop about his life. I also had a lot of encounters with other people in the entertainment world. Through Rip, I got to meet Debbie Reynolds, and would really sit back sort of as the kid and hear them, kind of former stars still hustling, still negotiating, still, getting awareness for who they were and making appearances. And they were still doing gigs in Vegas. This would have been the early 2000s when I was there. And so that business spark really kind of lit something in my brain. And so after college, I ended up, building an act basically. I ended up as a cruise ship entertainer, which was a great gig. I did cruise ships and resorts, even more so resorts than cruise ships, all over the world. And I was entertaining tourists. And, as things go, you get a little older, you get sick and tired of living out of a suitcase. I was on the road 8, 9 months a year, ended up getting married. There was also, though, this little thing in the back of my head in dealing with business. Obviously, you deal with contracts and laws, and that's just was sort of always a thing in the back of my head. And when I discovered that I was sick and tired of living out on the road, I figured, well, maybe I should, become a lawyer and do this law thing. So, with the help of some friends in both the political world, I'd kind of dabbled into the whole political thing as well. I was kind of all over the place trying to find myself. Um, I had discovered that law school was an option, and I had some people help me get into law school. And so I came off the road. I went into law school, and during my breaks from law school, I was still flying to Mexico and in the Caribbean and doing my comedy act, and that was a great experience. But after getting through law school, I started figuring out that I wasn't going to be an entertainment quote unquote lawyer, because that was really just a glorified criminal defense lawyer with higher need clients that were hard to collect from. That was sort of the reputation as far as that went. And my concentration was in intellectual property, but my gosh, it was just boring. And I ended up clerking for the chief judge in one of our counties here outside of Detroit in Macomb County. And he had a criminal docket. And that really opened my eyes to the world of criminal defense and how important it was to stand up for the rights of those accused, even if they've done heinous things. But that really taught me, he really taught me how important it was, even maybe how much more important it was to defend the rights of the guilty, because by doing that, you ensured that the people who truly were innocent would actually get a fair shake in court. And to me, that was really the life-changing, that was really a life-changing lesson that I took out of that clerkship. And I got out of law school and just discovered, wow, the whole world's out here. A lot of people don't want to practice in the criminal defense realm exclusively because it's made up of, by and large, used and abused and underpaid public defenders and solo practitioners who are really trying hard to hustle and to grind and to make things happen. And that's really difficult for a lot of them. And having my business background, having law been almost sort of like my third career, if you will, I decided, look, there's got to be a better way. I was going to try and take the lessons I learned in those worlds, in those industries, and try to drag them into the law world and see if I could get attention, to see if I could build a law practice. When I was doing the whole magic thing, one of the things that I did, and I was extremely proud of, is I put together a couple of touring shows, started touring performing arts centers. Now, I put together this throwback, historical-based Halloween horror show, and I started using social media to sell tickets. And I guess that kind of goes back to that I was sort of a better business person than even an entertainer. But that was in the very, very early days of sort of social media selling. Things like deal-a-day sites, like a Groupon and Living Social was a big one. And when I started booking my show, this little ragtag magic show, into performing arts center venues that were used to, hosting huge known names, and then I was able to come in and sell out rooms. We were on tour on circuits that like Gallagher was playing and all these, off-Broadway musicals. And then here came this, this Keith Stickley and the Dr. Scream Spook Show Revival, this ragtag group of guys. And I was using, early internet marketing techniques to go out and find my audience and sell tickets. And we were selling out theaters. And so it was sort of a natural evolution. I started studying guys like Gary Vaynerchuk. I started studying even controversial guys, Grant Cardone, all these kind of people who really understood the power of attention and distribution when it came to online and education. And so I started using that as the basis to try to get clients to come to my law firm here in rural Michigan, where there was a lot of clients, not a lot of attorneys, but there was even less attention on where you could go if you had a legal problem. And so I started developing a playbook, and I spent tens of thousands of dollars and tens of thousands of hours really figuring out how I could get people to come to me and my law firm willing to hire me, because I was never that comfortable with direct sales. I was never really comfortable sitting somebody down and giving them a traditional sales pitch and then asking for the close and asking for this money. That was intimidating to me. And so what I discovered and what started happening is this plan really worked. And we started getting attention and educating our clients as to what the possibilities were. And when we started educating our clients, we became the trusted authority in our area. Having experience, having legal mentors who were some of the best in the state, bar none, gave me the tools I needed to confidently represent people's interest in a courtroom. I'm very proud of our product, and we do a really, really good job at defending people's rights in this area. What really started to set us apart was when we were able to get that information out and build a practice using these principles. And doing that, we were able to go from, what the 80th, 90th percentile of solo practitioners here in the state of Michigan are doing, which is about $125, maybe $150,000 a year in revenue, and bump that up, over 350 up into the 450 range. And we did that using this playbook that we developed, and it works. It works in law. It works in other industries. But I was really dedicated to bringing these techniques into the criminal defense realm because this is just an area of the law and it's a social cause that I'm really passionate about. I'm also heavily involved in public defense. And to me, I feel that I can help people become better attorneys if they can run a law firm with a lot more revenue, not constantly worried about the wolf at the doorstep and are they going to be able to keep the lights on? Are they going to be able to pay the secretary? Are they going to keep this whole thing moving? And so, my revelation for me personally was, wow, when I've got enough revenue coming in the door and I have the stress of the business off of me, I can go be a much more aggressive, a much more effective litigator in the courtroom. And as time has gone on and we've condensed these into sort of, standard operating procedures that we use here at the Stickley Law Firm, I, I sort of coined, the term defender DNA because I do believe that real defenders have something in us. I do believe that it's sort of in our DNA to go out and defend people in these hideous, situations. And in protecting people's rights, I believe that this is an effective way to give back. If I can train people who are passionate about criminal defense to grow their firms and take that stress off, they can do a better job. And quite frankly, I'm at the point in my life where I want to start moving over into a couple of different areas. I have some other business interests. So I wanted to create Defender DNA as a way to not just monetize. Sure, it's not free, but I wanted to be able to impart that knowledge and take a little bit of my practice pressure off so that I could pursue, quite frankly, a couple other investment and creative opportunities at this point in my life before I get too old. So that's who I am. That's my origin story. I have built multiple businesses from scratch. I've never really taken on any sort of debt load, and I've always sort of used one building block to build on the next. That's how I've designed Defender DNA. That's how I teach the system and the principles. And I think that this is knowledge that I can impart onto other people who might be, stuck in a public defender office, squeaking out $80,000 to $100,000 a year, while they have a debt load of $200,000, behind them, and it feels like they're never going to get out of it. And they can get out of it if they're a competent attorney and they follow our system and our teachings and what we're doing. We can change their life, and in changing their life, they're going to be able to change the life of their client. It's a great feeling watching fellow attorneys become better attorneys and get better outcomes, especially for those accused of hideous crimes who haven't done anything, because they are willing, they have the clear mind, they have the wherewithal to go out and do what they need to do to get the job done. That's what Defender DNA is all about. That's why I've created it, and that's why I'm trying to foster both a system and a community of lawyers who want to take this approach and build their practice and go out and truly make a difference in this space.